everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Timah and my channel is Cooking for Health with Timah, where food is more than what you eat. So look, I'm excited. One, I'm excited because it's been 10 years since I've gotten rid of fibroids. So happy anniversary to me. Yay, yay. And something else that I think is really great, okay, because my sister told me about this lady, this sister, this goddess, this queen, Princella Clark. If you don't know, you better look her up. Princella Clark, she told me about her about a month ago. And so I watched her video. I did a search on YouTube, and one of the first videos that came up, it was called The Black Woman Chose Welfare. Y'all, I'm sitting there and I'm cringing. I'm like this. So let me just brace you now, right? Okay, because her information, it can be triggering, okay? It can be triggering, but what I'm going to say is trigger through it. And it's triggering because of the topics and because of her main premise. It's very controversial, y'all. Okay, so when I say her information can be triggering, and it's also going to be based on how strongly you hold on to some information and how you've made it a part of yourself. So I watched this and I was like, but then, it's like, I'm not going to stop watching it, because I want to understand, because, my sister, she's not telling me to watch this for like no reason, because she knows what I'm into, and so I'm watching this, and I think that video was like about 3 to 4 hours long. I'm used to sitting through lengthy videos, lengthy lectures, because of when I was away at school, right? And then watching just lectures, right? Lectures are typically going to be long. Anyway, so I'm watching this video, and the link is in the description. The link is in the description. So y'all gonna need to watch this. But so look. So basically, what she's talking about inside of this video. Well, actually, let me back up before I even start talking about what she's saying inside this video, because what she has done is like connect a lot of dots, right? And those dots led her to this mindset that she has in regards to, one, letting women that don't know that you are the value, because shit, you are the value. The woman is God. So that, also decentering men, and she's not just talking about black men. She's talking about all men. I understand this. She also talks about not necessarily lesbianism, but yeah, lesbianism. Not that you should be a lesbian, but that's your choice. So she also calls out the different choices, right? Okay, so but again, you need to go and watch it, because I'm probably not gonna do this the justice that it really deserves, but I'm gonna do my best. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, decentering men. Women are the prize, which we absolutely are. You having your choices. You do not have to choose a man to actually be with. She gives those options. You can be to yourself. You can, if you need, you can use toys as if you're not doing it any darn way, right? You can be with a woman, or just, be to your damn self. But you got choices. So it's not like back in the day where you had to have a man. And so inside of this video, what she's talking about with black women choosing welfare. And I've heard this so much over the years, when just by getting on YouTube, right? Just by getting on YouTube is where I was really hearing it. Because in my home growing up, we actually had our dad in the house. He was there, but I mean he was there, but he wasn't really there. He had his own company. And so he was gone with his business a lot and doing whatever else that he was doing. But my mom and our dad, they didn't stay married all the time. But we didn't hear about black women choosing welfare until coming up into YouTube days and start hearing black men saying this about black women. It's like, never heard about that growing up. And so she did this video breakdown. She did this video, and inside this video, she's pulling facts. So it's not just information that she's pulling out of the air, and she's not talking out the side of her neck. She has some documents, some documentaries that were done back in the 70s, and up into the 80s, and some of them might have been in the late 60s as well, in regards to what was going on in the neighborhoods. And it wasn't just the black neighborhoods, but the majority of what I was seeing in the documentaries that was being shown, it was black people.
This recipe will be presented right after the video, so please stay tuned.
And they were showing how the black men were basically saying these kids they're not my responsibility, you know. And I mean, it's like I said, this is gonna be triggering. And so, but see, and also Princella talks about how the man ain't supposed to be inside the house any darn way. He's supposed to be out there in the field, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Triggering. I know it's triggering. Trigger through it. Just trigger through it. The black man, or the man period, is just supposed to be out in the fields. If you watch this, there's this series on Netflix, Queen, the black woman. I don't remember her name right now. But her husband, it was like he had a mental affliction, right? If I can't think of the name of this movie. I don't remember the name of it. But it's Queen something, this black woman. Gosh, I wish I could remember her name right now, but I just can't. But her husband, the king, had this mental affliction where he couldn't be inside of the house, right? He couldn't be in the house, not for long. He preferred to be outside. And so when I started watching this video that Priscilla put up, Black Women Chose Welfare, as I'm watching it, that series is popping up inside of my head in regards to his behavior and how the queen was the one that stepped up and was taking care of everything. She was running everything because of his mental affliction. He didn't want to be inside of the house. He wanted to be outside. He wanted to be guarding anything but inside the house. He didn't want to be around his wife, period. He just didn't want to be in the house, period, because he didn't see that as his place. So in this 3 to 4 hour long video that she did, there are several documentaries that she pulled up inside of this. And she also, she mentioned Universe 25 experiment. This is an experiment that this guy, John Calhoun, did from between 1968 and about 1973 with Rat Utopia. I looked this up too and saw, because there's like a lot of information out on that too. There's some old videos out with these experiments that he actually did. The actual experiments are actually still available. And so what it is, he started out with a small number of rats. Maybe like about four sections of rats, four rats, right? So he has some male rats and some female rats. Each of the rats had their own section in this little universe that he put together, right? In this certain size of a space. And so he left these rats. Now, each of the rats inside of each of these spaces, they had the same amount of resources inside of each of these spaces, right? So resource, they had food, they had bedding, their homes, they had everything. Men, the male and the female, so they had everything the same, right? And so as the experiment went on and went on and went on, the population just continued to boom and boom and boom, because basically it was because they all had everything that they needed, right? So no one was going out to work. All their needs were fulfilled. They had all of their food right there. I don't have to go hunt. The only thing I need to do is just chill. I'm not burning off any type of energy or anything, so I'm not exercising, so you get fat, right? And then you start getting irritable because now you right next to all these other beings, and it just seems like they're getting inside your way, but you're continuously having babies, having babies, having babies. And so over a period of time with this rat boom, right, some of the rats, they decided, and he called these the something was the beautiful ones. There were some that's called the beautiful ones, but they are also saying that they're kind of retarded, but called them the beautiful ones because they separated themselves from all the other groups, because the other groups, they were really really aggressive. The male rats. The male rats were very, very aggressive. If I'm not mistaken, there may have been cannibalism. There was a lot of, oh my gosh, there were hierarchies that were being set up between the male rats, okay? And you can just imagine with the overpopulation of these rats, and then there are females too, with all the aggression that's going on between the rats, what's happening with the female rats. So the female rats are also being abused, and they're being abused by the male rats, and then there's no space for none of them, basically, so now the female rats that were gentle, they're not gentle anymore. They're taking on certain types of behaviors because they started eating their young, they started neglecting their young, so there was like a whole, it's horrible. It's horrible, y'all. It's really horrible, but this ain't the worst. This ain't the worst. So the population continued to grow, and continue to grow, right? So the beautiful ones that set themselves aside to be away from everything else, they weren't trying to compete for nothing. They weren't trying to compete for men, for the male, for the female. What they did was keep themselves groomed. They wanted to look fly. That's it. I want to look fly. I want to just be in my sports car. I want to sit and just be chill. This same experiment, she says, and then when she says it, and you start thinking, she says also happened in the Black community. There you get the hood rats, right? You get hood rat. You get the population boom. You get the projects. See, because all this stuff starts coming up inside your head. Let me say it started coming up inside my head. I'm seeing the projects. I'm seeing the overpopulation of the people in the projects, and then how they're stacking people up on top of each other in these buildings, in the projects, and all you have is just more people, more people, more people, and more people upon people. And then you have all the hierarchies with the men, because that experiment that was done with the rats was done with the people too. And so the thing that happened with the rats is also seen happen in the people. So there's definitely that experiment that's going on. Make sure you check out the make sure you check that out. It's in the description box. Okay, so now after I watched that, I said, okay, I understand this. I understand this. But that wasn't the only thing that I wanted to see on her. So for me to really get to somebody's point really and to see how it holds up, I may need to see them speaking with somebody else or debating with somebody, having a conversation just to see how their information holds up with somebody else's that's on the opposite side of whatever her theory is or premise is. You know what I'm saying? Although she's pulling some facts up out of this, right? So initially, at first I just thought, oh, is she an angry, what we call the angry black woman? Because, we do that. We say you're the angry black woman as if we don't have our right to be angry at some stuff and to express ourselves about some stuff. So yeah, I'm going to be an angry black woman. But, okay, so when I was watching this, that came up in me too. I was like, then I was like, oh, no, wait. So it's like, okay, I really need to pay attention to this. Let me just sit still and listen to what she's saying because I want to understand what it is that she's talking about and why it's so important for me to hear this. And I understood it. And so now I need to hear her in another way. So I did another search. And so I saw that she had some live streams where she spoke with some people. And one of the first ones that came up, this guy, never heard of him before, Charleston White. Oh, this character is something else, isn't he? She did this conversation with Charleston White. And so initially, this conversation, I think it was supposed to be in a debate, but they were just really having a conversation because initially he was agreeing with everything that she was saying, that, whatever, and it was going real smooth. It was like this. It was going real smooth, right? And then I saw part of her genius. Because the more she talked to him, and she was just chill, she was just cool. But the more she talked to him, the more he started to come out the bag. It was like her tone of voice put him up under hypnosis. It was like her tone of voice put his ass up under hypnosis, and all he could do was talk from his subconscious, and he was just blah, blah, blah. He was throwing it all up, and I was sitting there going, oh, she's genius. I was like, oh my gosh, she's a freaking genius. So apparently this guy has a very huge following of men and of course some women. And they're believing and they're following and they're just going along with things that he say. But the things I heard him say, I'm like, how in the hell could you go along with? Okay, so the things that he started spitting up and just regurgitating, just talking out of his sub, right? He was talking about how they were running trains on girls, he and his boys. How they were just raping girls. How he didn't understand these emotions. And this is something that she talked about. How men, period, not just black men, how men are incapable of love, how they do not know their emotions, And he admitted to all of this stuff. Now, I guess you would say, well, he's just one man admitting for himself. No, 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 no. Because if you're honest with yourself, if you are so honest in regards to the men that you know, if you are honest, because I know these men. I was in a relationship 7 years with one. He did not know his emotions. And he would always try to check my emotions to try to see where his emotions are going to be at. The whole thing was just retarded. But anyway, emotions, don't know how to love, okay? Like I said, it's triggering. I know what you're saying. What you mean black men don't know how to love? So they can't love their kids? I didn't say they can't care. Because, see, when I was in a relationship, he continued to try to ask me, what is love? And do I love him? And try to get me to tell him that I loved him. I kept on telling him that everything that I am doing is love. And he kept on asking, what is love? And then, I mean, and so I finally just told him, okay, you just, all you need to do is just care for me. Just care for me, because if you care for me, you gonna make sure that I ain't got hit by a truck. You gonna make sure that I eat. You gonna make sure that no harm comes to me. Just care for me. That's just all you need to do. Just care. If you can care, then you know what care is, right? So, but her information, it is triggering. So you'll get triggered. And this is something that our father said. Our father said this back in the day, right, when we were kids. He said to me, after an argument or something, and he made me mad. And he said, well, if I made you mad, then you just thought of something. And that's true. Because if you're triggered by something, you just thought of something. You just had a very strong emotion to something. And, you just have to think about it. And so I'm saying trigger through it. Trigger through it. Because if it just made you angry, it made you angry for a whole reason. So just think about why it made you angry and process that. Okay? So trigger through it. Once you trigger through it, just like having a fear being put in front of you or being faced with your fear, and you have to get through your fear so that you can learn and get to the other side, the bright side. You know what I'm saying? Trigger through it. So, but she's having this conversation with Charleston White, and he's saying just some horrendous stuff. And then I think it was somebody in the background that made him catch himself. And when he caught himself and he realized that he was throwing up all this information, he's doing it on camera, right? Because, I mean, you talk about you raping people, you running trains and all this type of stuff, right? Being prosecuted for rape, that don't end. Hence, Bill Cosby, all you need is these women, these girls, whoever, they women now. All you need is for them to step up. Step up. See, so he tried to shut that down, but it was too late. He already told it all. He was just run off at the mouth. He already told everything, right? So now he's pissed off, and it's like he's pissed off at Princella, but he ain't pissed off at Princella. Princella didn't do nothing but she having a conversation with him, right? She having a conversation. This is her genius, though. And he just coming out the bag. So basically, he's upset with himself for telling it all. She didn't tell him to tell it, but he told it, and he was being honest in telling it. But when he realized he was telling it, and he was telling on himself and telling on people that would have been around him too, that's when the shenanigans started to happen. That's when the tantrum started to happen. Y'all. Okay, y'all got to see this. Like I said, I don't know who this Charleston, I was going to say Charleston Heston, this Charleston White guy is, but This was some crazy stuff, yo. It was unbelievable is what it is. Completely unbelievable. Okay. Um, oh my gosh. So I decided, okay, I got that. So I needed to watch something else where she was having conversations with people. So I saw she was on a panel. Whose panel was she on? I don't remember. But it was a panel. It was majority guys. And apparently they're inviting her to their channels. She's not asking to be on their channels. That's what she said. But their people are wanting her to come on their channels. And more than likely, they're wanting her over there because they figure if she comes over on that channel, the people that support her are going to come over to that channel too, and that they're going to be able to say something that's going to make her supporters go, oh, we need to listen to these guys instead of listening to her because their information is so much more enlightening, right? Nah, that ain't happening. If anything, it's going to be the other way, and apparently it is the other way. So she do these platforms and all these guys. And so a thing that I've noticed is, and she even mentioned it, that, okay, so let me back a little. So on these platforms, they're asking her these questions, and it's obvious that they haven't done their due diligence into her when they're asking her these questions. Excuse me. I just finished eating, I'm sorry. And what do I mean by that? Do the due diligence, right? They didn't do their research. So apparently she has a book out. And the last I heard, she has maybe 2 books that she has put out. And so I believe in one of these panels, she mentioned that she gave the guy a copy of the book, right? But through this conversation, you could tell that he hadn't read it, right? And seeing, to me, I don't know about what you think about this, but to me, that's a sign of disrespect. Because if you want to have an open and honest conversation with somebody, bringing them on your panel, doing something in public, you're doing something live, you want to look into their background, look into who they are, so that you can have an open and honest conversation. And even if you're not going to get her book, she has a YouTube channel with a lot of content that you can sit and watch her content, so that you can see where her mindset is, her train of thought, and how she came to her train of thought, right? If you're not going to get her book, then, you do that. So apparently that's not happening, And so how do you begin to fix your mouth and your mind to say how something is in error that she's saying, when basically all she's doing is she's giving you facts, right? She's giving you facts. She's pulling up facts. She's pulling up statistics. She's doing the peer review type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just something that, again, that she's just letting fly out her mouth, So they want to be able, a lot of these guys, it seems that they really want to just be able to say, I debunked Princella, but they can't do that. So they'll get upset. They throw tantrums on their platforms. They get disrespectful. Part of their throwing tantrums is to get disrespectful, is to cut her off, is to turn off her microphone, overspeak her, laugh. It's a lot of childish type of behavior, So they'll start to display that in her direction, but she don't let that faze her because she already understands the male psyche. right? And that type of energy that they're in that they can't get out of, regardless of who the hell it is that she done talked to, they're showing it, right? So, oh my gosh, this is yeah, but so she get on their platforms. They're not doing their due diligence to do their research, which is really disrespectful. And really, what that would say is they really just want her to come on their platforms because again, they figure I don't need to read her book because I already know what she's about because she's about what every other woman is about. She's about nagging. She's about, oh, the black man ain't nothing. But the thing is, she ain't just talking about black men. That's far from it. She's talking about all men with these specific behaviors because they all have it. And and part of this is the aggression that's coming from the testosterone, right? So she talks about that as well. And of course you have the guys wanting to deny that, but how do you, and then they want to say, yeah, but women have testosterone too. Yeah, but we don't have it in abundance like y'all do. Like, come on now. We really don't. We don't. We do have a little speck of testosterone, but we do not have that like you do. We have the estrogen. Okay, we have the estrogen. Well, we may be estrogen dominant, but we are not testosterone dominant. And that aggression comes from that testosterone. So, anyway. So, they bring her onto their channels without doing their due diligence again, assuming that they know what's inside of her head, which quickly it turns in, oh, I don't know what's inside of her head, and I'm going to throw a hissy fit, and I'm not going to let her say anything, because if she says something, it's going to hurt my feelings, and I'm going to get all up in my feelings. I'm going to get upset because I'm in my feelings. I'm going to get upset, and I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to laugh at you. I'm going to throw some tantrums. I'm going to get loud so that you won't talk because I'm going to be trying to talk over you. I'm going to use my big voice to dominate yours, right? So they doing all this type of stuff. They doing all this type of stuff because they cannot handle the information that's coming from her because of, here's my thought. See, for the longest time, and all across social media, black men talk about themselves as being super special, and black women put them up as being super special, and you are gods, and you are the kings, and this type of thing. Even if they ain't done nothing with their lives, oh, you still a king, but you don't have a kingdom, but you still a king, but you're not ruling over anything, but you're still a king. You don't have a business, you don't have your own home, you're not doing anything, but you're still a king and you're still a god, right? So that would be a woman centering a man, putting him before herself. That's what that is, right? See? So we've seen this. I've seen this on social media. I made a post a few years ago in regards to how men have failed the communities. In particular, I was talking about black men, how black men failed the communities because of the state of the communities. And I'm like, well, other communities are not like our communities. You don't see black men building things. You don't see them doing things. Then they'll point out this one black guy that may be doing something, but it's like, that's one. But you can't show many. You can't show a group of them. You can't show a community that they've created. That was where I was going with it. This was on Facebook. So this was like in 2018, 2017, 2018. Might have been 2015 because that's when when Facebook made it so that you could have these notes. You could do the notes. And so I was doing all those notes. But so you see, I've seen all this type of stuff on social media where women are centering black men over themselves, regardless of their state, regardless of their mindset. They're putting them first. And so Princella says, no, pull away from them. And come on, y'all, we've heard this before. We've heard it said where women need to close their legs and not give men anything, and that will make him do something. We've heard it before, but it didn't stick with a lot of us, right? But if you listen to her, if you listen to what she's saying, and if you're not trying to just block it away, if you're not so hit by being traumatized by, based on what she says, what she stands for, and who she is in her personal life, which ain't your damn business any damn way, ain't mine, then you can get through it so that you can understand what she's talking about, and then you can do your own research in regard to this, in regards to what she's talking about, right? Because what she's saying is men cannot rise any higher than their dicks. I know. A lot of us, look, I know y'all have said this before. We've heard this before. Men think what they get. She's just telling you, and she's proving it. She's just proving it to you. She's proving it that they think what they did, and they can't rise. The majority of them cannot rise any higher than their dicks. They cannot. They cannot rise any higher than that. That's your root chakra that she's talking about. Your root chakra, that's fear. And she talks about how they're fear-based. And they are. I mean, if you look at what was going on around the COVID, okay, who were the ones that were really in fear? Who were the ones that were really being able to be pushed to get outside and do stuff? Hold the banner, Black Lives Matter. It was the men. Of course, you had a few black women out there, but the majority of what you saw a lot of black men. You saw the black men stand on cars tearing shit up. They were the ones that was doing that type of stuff. But it's fear. And from fear, you get a whole bunch of, that's where you get all the other low vibrational energies like anger. Okay, so that's fear. So she's like, they can't rise no higher than that. But yeah, so according to Princella, the majority of men, so that means whatever man that you sit right next to, turn to him and say, honey, you are on a low vibrational. You can't rise no higher than your dick. You cannot love. You don't know what your emotions are. You use women. You use me. I am the prize, and you need to understand that, because you are living inside my house. I did move you in with me. Okay? There you go. That's what you need to say. Oh shit, let me stop. Look, let me tell you something. I had a 7-year relationship, okay? That's all I was willing to give. I wasn't willing to give anymore. And I was with him during my bout with fibroids. I was with him during he didn't know, he didn't understand what I was going through. It was, no matter what I told him, he didn't understand what I was going through. As a matter of fact, he would say stuff like, I was told that having sex would help the fibroids to come up. Yes, he would say ignorant things like that. He was manipulative. He was manipulative. No, I'm not saying everything was on him, because I knew that I just couldn't contend with him too much longer because of it. But he was very manipulative. I'm not an argumentative person. I'm not. I'm not an argumentative person. I've always been very calm. I'm a creative person. I'm always in my head because I'm designing. I'm an actual fashion designer, clothes designer, footwear designer. Okay, and I'm also a cook. I'm a chef, right? I went to Tuskegee University. I went to IED Chicago. I also went to Wayne C3. Okay, although I went to those schools, that's not where I became the creative person. I've always been creative. I was just born to be creative. Right at the age of 5, I made my first wearable clothes. When I was like 11 or 12 years old, I made my first pair of wearable shoes, some blue satin moccasins. So I actually do that. Okay, but so I was with him for 7 years, 7 long years, and because I was already into spirituality and learning about myself and getting stresses off of me and just resetting my mind and reevaluating the way I looked at myself, I thought about myself, and I thought about people that I had around me and that I needed to get from around me. He just happened to be one of those persons that I needed to move out of my space. And the great thing is, once I moved him out of my space, that same year, just so happens that same year is when my fibroids were completely gone. So in some of my videos, that's why I'll talk about it. Even if it has to be a certain person that you need to get out of your life, you have to move them out of your life because you have to do whatever it takes to heal yourself, especially doing this naturally. Excuse me. You have to do whatever it takes to heal yourself. But so but anyway, but Princella, she she says that the man cannot rise any higher than his lower self, and so his lower self would be in the lower chakras. Basically she's saying that basically it's the root chakra for him, but your lower 3 chakras is the root, it's the sacral, and then it's the solar chakra. So that's your lower 3 chakras. She talks about how men are really just consumers on the planet, right? And if you're living in your lower self, your lower 3 energy centers, that's consumers. That's the consuming energy. That energy there is used to digest and process and eliminate toxins, food, waste, that area there. It consumes, it consumes your energy. It consumes energy just so they can do all of those processes and cause the eliminations, right? So they're living down there in all of that muck and mess. That's where they at. Shit. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me continue. Okay, so I have yet to catch her in a live stream because I would like to. I'm sure I can form some questions to ask her. We're like for real. But I have been talking about parthenogenesis since maybe about last year because it keeps coming inside my head to talk about parthenogenesis in connection to fibroids. And so I have heard her start mentioning parthenogenesis. And so, I'm like, okay, she caught the wave. Because I was like, I need somebody that's talking about parthenogenesis with a big voice to start saying something about this. I mean, not this talking about parthenogenesis, but somebody that has a big voice, educated, spiritual, to start talking about this. Because I was talking about this and I'm like, and I'm trying to connect this with the fibroids. And so that was around when my sister told me about her, right? And so I ran into a video where she started to mention parthenogenesis, and I went, oh, she caught the wave. I was like, she caught the wave and we entangled. I was like, is that quantum entanglement? But I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, so I'm excited. And here's something I thought was really interesting. So um a few months ago, I had this dream, and this is about Brother Panic. Rest in peace, rest in your power, however we want to say it, right? It was about him. He was in my dream, and in the dream, it was being said that his time was over, but that energy, his time was over because he's gone as far as he can go with information. And then I saw this female face like pushing through like a lion, and as he kind of like dimmed, and then the next thing I know, I was hearing that he had passed, right? And so then I heard about her, and I started looking into her, and I went, oh, I was like, okay, okay. That would have been masculine energy having to take the back seat because it's been too dominant and too destructive. Not that he's been too destructive, but just the energy in itself. That energy has been too dominant and too destructive, and it had to take the seat back because feminine energy has to be pushed to the front. And then I saw her. I saw her. And I went, oh, and I heard the heavens open up, and I heard the harp start to sing, and it went, oh. That was it. It's like, wow. It's like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. So I think that this is a very, very wonderful and absolutely amazing time to be in. Absolutely a wonderful time to be in because so much information out there, and just because this is the information age, the age of Aquarius, so much information out there, you don't know how to pinpoint it, right? You don't know how to pinpoint it and focus in on it because there's so much out there, and it's just like flying at you, right? So now you got to learn how to like focus in on it. You have to be like, like Superman, right? Be like Superman or like Superwoman, and be able to hone in on information and stick with it and grow with it and expand with it, right? And from what I've seen, she can help you to do that. She can help you do that, right? If you've been I've never been in any of these situations that that she also talks about. My relationships have never been physically abusive. I wouldn't say that they were mentally abusive either. We argued, but a knockdown, drag out argument, I wasn't the person that was going to do that if he was in my home, right? And I never let him move in with me. No man that I've been with, I wanted to let them move in with me. I've always had my own space, and I wanted it that way. So, but he wanted me. He wanted me to let him move in, but I didn't want that. But what was my point? Oh gosh, my train of thought is leaving. But but anyway, but yeah, she can help you to hone in on some stuff. But what I was saying was, in my relationship, I didn't have those knockdown, drag out arguments, not face to face, right? This is where I was leaving off at. If I was on the phone with him, I'd do it. I have a knockdown, cuss him out type of argument. But if you're in my face, because I'm a little person, I'm 5'2", I'm only like 25 pounds, dripping wet, right? I'm not trying to fight no dude. So, I mean, not that he was physically violent, not that I was aware of anyway. I don't know if he did that with any of his other females, but it never happened with me. I spoke with one of his exes that had his children. She never said that he was physical with her, but after her, she turned gay. I'm just saying, she turned gay after him, and with his behaviors, she she did. She turned gay after him. That was crazy. But yeah, so I wouldn't argue with him if we were face to face. I'd do it over the phone, but he would attempt to get me to argue with him when he's in my presence. But I'm not an argumentative person like that, and I ain't stupid. I'm like, I ain't stupid, and I already know you're manipulative because you already told me who your daddy is. Your dad, he told me that his daddy was manipulative. He told me that his daddy didn't really want to do anything. He told me a lot about his daddy. And I told him that, well, you're a lot like your daddy. I mean, we was having a decent conversation at one point, when I said that. So I told him, you're a lot like your dad. He was like, how? What do you mean? You're a bit manipulative too. You are a bit manipulative, You're manipulative in this way, Of course, he denied it all, but I'm like, okay, all right. He found it really bewildering that he never saw me cry. And he would ask me, he said, how come I've never seen you cry? How come you don't cry? And it bothered him. And so I'm like, well, why do you need to see me cry? For what reason am I supposed to be crying? And so he's like, when we're watching movies, you don't cry at movies. Instead, you be laughing at it. I'm like, because although we sitting here watching the same movie, we ain't watching the same movie. When we were kids, our father told us, when you're watching movies and stuff, he said, the most important thing to watch is what's going on in the background. Right? Now, when our father said that, I thought he was just talking about on the screen and the background of the screen, right? The people that was on the screen doing something in the background. So I didn't learn until older that what he was talking about was how it was actually written, the background, the base line of the movie, the plot. You know what I'm saying? So I learned that, because everything has its layers. So, when I'm watching movies, TV shows, or whatever, I see it in layers, right? And that's how I'm a designer. I see things in layers. I see the big picture, then I start breaking it down, and that's how I'm able to create something. So I do that when I'm watching movies, when I'm watching TV shows, and then you can do that with people. So, and I saw that she can do that with people too. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. But, so, I'm telling him that, we're not watching the same movies, and this is what my dad said. So, I find a lot of things is going to be funny that you might think could be sad, and I'll find it also to be funny that you might think is going to be scary because we're not really watching the same movie or whatever, so then, once we finish watching it, then, I start talking about the movie and I'm breaking the movie down. So like for example, right, I did a breakdown of the series Lucifer. Lucifer came out in 2016, 2017. I did a video on it in 2018. It's a short video, but I went through like season 1 to season 4 talking about it, breaking it down. So there's levels to this, right? So you have the base mundane level and it all depends on where you are in your spirituality, in your knowledge base, or whatever the heck. Just depends on where you are, what you're going to see when you start watching this series, right? So if you're religious, then you're just going to be looking at the religious aspect. You're going to see Lucifer. Oh, Lucifer's the devil. He's manipulative. He's this. Oh, he's just doing the devil thing. But if you look deeper into it, which would be like the subconscious of the movie, so you go deeper into it, you see the spiritual side, the metaphysical side of it, where they're talking about energy of it, right? So Lucifer, then there's Chloe. So Lucifer represents like the masculine energy, then Chloe the feminine energy, then the psychiatrist, she's the subconscious inside of the movie and stuff, and then how Lucifer starts to behave because Lucifer doesn't really understand his emotions as he's connecting more with Chloe, the feminine energy. The more they start to connect, the more confused and shit he starts to get about himself, and he starts to feel like he's getting weaker because he's getting closer to Chloe. And then whenever this happens, he goes to see the psychiatrist to try to understand these emotions that's bubbling up in him. And so he's raising his he's raising his vibration by connecting more and more to his feminine side, his feminine energy. And they show him as he's raising, he starts at the root chakra. They show him as he raises himself up. He raises himself up to the heart, and they show him as he's turning into his true self. He's now showing his true face, the devil face. He's showing all of that now. And then he raises himself up even more, and he takes his seat back in heaven, back into the crown chakra. He's sitting on his seat on high in feminine energy. He's now balanced with his right and left hemisphere. With the series is a trip. The series is a trip. So yeah, so you know that's what I'm watching when I'm watching this. He's watching something else. I'm watching. Oh, look how this energy is playing each other. So I mean, you know, I'm sitting there and I'm cracking up on one thing, and he's just like, the hell. He actually thought that series was pretty stupid. I'm like, well, it was stupid, but it just depends on what you're looking at when you're watching it, what it is that you're trying to see. I'm just looking at something else. You looking at this. But, you know, but anyway. So yeah. So I learned that Princella, she talks a lot about energy as well. So I need to really look into some of her videos in regards to that, because I'm really into talking about energies, learning about energy, and I apply everything to myself first and foremost, because I'm still in the process of learning myself, you know, understanding myself and growing myself and continuously being in my true self, because I really want to walk my truest path, you know. So gosh, oh my gosh. So when my sister told me about her, you know, I just thought that was such a blessing when I started looking at those videos, you know, because her information has enlightened me more, right? It's enlightened me more, you know. Wow, you know, but wow, if you know who Brother Panic was, if you know who he was, then you know he may have talked about energies, but he didn't know it like she does. He didn't know it like she does, and I think that's why he had to. This might sound cold, but I don't mean it that way. I think that's why he had to be moved out of the way, because she has to come through. It's just that time. She has to come through, and she has to bring up more and more women, and they have to be brought up in a specific type of mindset. He couldn't have that mindset like she has it, and with whatever speaker that I had seen him with doesn't have the ability to do what I've seen Princella would have the ability to actually do, and that she is doing. So that energy had to sit down, because she has to be here. It's necessary, right? Oh my gosh, I don't know how long I've been talking. I mean, I've done one video where I've almost talked for like 3 hours, where I broke down Star Trek Discovery, because that's all about energy too. I do have a movie folder where I was doing all that, I think I broke down Aladdin. I broke down Star Trek Discovery, Lucifer. I'm just talking about the ones inside that folder because pretty much anything that I can watch, I can break it down. Break it down to its spiritual side in the levels of it, not just, I like the cinematography of it. It's very bright and beautiful, and I love the way that they did their masks, and the way that they're moving and they're flowing. Not that, it's breaking it down to see the levels of the movies. And if you can break down a movie, you should be able to break down yourself, because all these movies are really just based off of us, is what I've noticed. Like how I did with Star Trek. Star Trek, the ship itself represents the human body, right? It represents the human body. That big saucer, then you have the points going down like that. That's just a 5-pointed star. That's the human body. That's the head, arm, leg, arm. That's the human body. They say that in the Nation of Islam. Head, arm, leg, arm, right? And so that's that 5-pointed star. Head, arm, leg, arm, right? So I break it down by looking at everything as being the human body, like all the movies as being the human body, and I have to put it to myself and say, okay, how would that work if that was me? Okay, so I see that this guy that's flying here, he's in part of the brain, and he's over here, he's the left brain, he's the right brain, and this guy is the governor. This guy, I mean, it's all kind of tripped out. Okay, but look, I think I really talked about all that I want to talk about in regards to this. But look, if you guys haven't seen Princella, y'all need to look into her. Y'all need to look into Princella, because she's a beast, and she is a beast. I would recommend that you look up debates that she's been in, right? Make that your starting point, where you see her debate some of these guys, right? Because that's where you get her strongest points, and they will hit home, and it'll really start to make you think. And again, it can be triggering to you, but you're gonna have to trigger through it. You're gonna have to bite down on that, and sit there and listen, take some notes, so you can go back and do some studying on some stuff too, okay? Because she pulls out a lot of facts. Right? And let me say this. I'm at the end of this video. I have a recipe that I'm going to share with you guys. And this is a recipe that I really originally did in 2017, but I still had the video sitting in my queue on YouTube since 2017. It's crazy, I never released it. So it's redone. For now. So it's some pizza cups, right? So y'all, hopefully you guys will enjoy the pizza cups. Hopefully you found what I'm talking about here beneficial or entertainment or something. But look, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the notification bell. And when you hit the notification bell, you have to click where it says all notifications. That's only for this channel. That's not for everything on YouTube. That's only for this channel, so you'll know when I'm putting out some information for you, because I don't come on social media unless I feel like I have some information that I want to share. I'm excited about something, or whatever. I don't just hang around YouTube or Instagram and social media and be streaming and checking stuff. I just don't. I have too much that I'm doing. I really do be attempting to put videos together. I just can't, because I'm cooking, and for the most part I'm cooking, and I don't really have an employee that can cook like I can, you know, and so I'm doing that. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing that. And I can't always set up a tripod and cook because when I'm cooking, I have on my gloves and a camera and cooking, they don't really mesh. And if I'm trying to make a recording and be cooking, that's just gonna take me out of my mind space because when I'm cooking, I'm in my head. I'm focused. I'm completely focused on that. My whole intention is to focus on that food, to get it right. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to make any mistakes. All my focus, my intentions, everything is just going right there. And to break that, it interrupts my creative process. So the only time that I can really say that I'm gonna do a video is if I say, okay, I'm gonna make this today and I'm gonna do a video. See, and then, you know, but other than that, I can't just be like, I'm in the kitchen, I'm already doing something. Oh, let me stop doing this and start recording. I can't do that. It's too in the way. But yeah, so without further ado, here's your recipe. Right, so as promised, I have a recipe for you. This is going to be real quick and easy. So we're going to go ahead and start getting the ingredients together real quick and easy. So we're going to start with the toppings because we got to get these marinated. So we have some red peppers, we have the green peppers, some mild, they call it banana peppers. Yeah, banana peppers. Then I have some sweet onions. I'm gonna put a little the shallot on it. I have my portobellos, and then that's another red bell pepper over there. Then of course the oyster mushroom. I like to cut up my mushrooms, but you can leave it whole if you want. This is some kelp mushrooms. You can use some nori's to put over yours, and a little bit of salt and some honey. And then you're gonna blend that all together, and that's gonna get set aside. Okay, so it's a half teaspoon sea salt, and I forgot the olives, so we put some olives inside of it. A quarter teaspoon of cayenne pepper. We're going to use about a half teaspoon of some basil, and we're going to use less of some grapeseed oil, maybe about a tablespoon, half of a tablespoon, and we're going to mix all that together and put it in the refrigerator. Okay, ingredients real quick. 2 cups of chickpea flour, 1.5 cup of your spelt flour, or you can use some einkorn. You're gonna need a teaspoon of baking soda. You're gonna need for the dough, you're gonna need 1 tablespoon of the grapeseed oil. Then you're gonna need another tablespoon of oil for the vegetables. So initially, you want to go ahead and mix your flours and sift it down. Also, what you're going to put inside of your flour, you're going to use some Himalayan sea salt. You can also use some Celtic sea salt, onion powder, and then some ginger. It's just going to be like a half teaspoon of each one of these. So you're going to sift all of that down together with your flour, including your baking soda. All of this goes together. And you're gonna need like a cup of carbonated water. Mix all of that together. Flour, baking soda, and salt. Now all of our that's gonna be like the salt and everything. So get all that mixed, and if you want to put more inside of it, then you can. So here's the carbonated water that's going inside of here. So this is a half a cup because I couldn't find my whole cup. I'm not sure what I did with it. And then there's the other half. So we have a whole cup of some carbonated water. So you want to get this incorporated really well. And because I'm using some chickpea flour in this, chickpea flour will make this a little bit like sticky. And so that oil also helps it to not be so sticky, and it keeps it manageable and a little bit pliable. The spelt flour is going to help with that too, but because because that chickpea flour is in there, yeah, that's going to be kind of crazy. Or else I would have just had my hands all down inside of it, but whatever. So I'm trying to work as fast as I can because I'm using the carbonated water, and I don't want it to like really degas while it's sitting out. So I'm hurrying up so I can get to my next steps to get it inside of the oven. So turn your eye on to 350 degrees and get your muffin dish, because this recipe makes 6. Get your muffin dish. Have that on because you have to work a little bit fast because you're using the carbonated water. The carbonated water really for this recipe is to make it soft, because what the baking soda will do, it will kind of dry it out, but it'll puff it up. But the carbonated water will help it to stay soft so that you won't have like this crunchy, tough type of bread, although you're gonna have a little bit of oil in it. That ain't enough for it. All right, so heat that up, get this, and we're going to the next step. Real quick and fast. With your muffin dish upside down, sprinkle a little bit of your flour on it so that it will make it real easy so that you can get your dough off of it once you've taken it out of the oven. What I'm going to do is just shape this into like a little oblong shape, you know, like when you're making some cookies, because I want to cut it into what would look like 6 even pieces to go on the back of the muffin containers. And I'm just going to sprinkle just a little bit more flour. Sometimes in my head I think I might be overdoing some stuff, but I'm not. So you have your little ball. So you're gonna, each of those sections you're gonna turn into a little ball. And just flatten it out as much as possible. It doesn't have to be like super thin, but you know. And then you're gonna take each one, you're gonna lay it over the top of, well, over the bottom of the muffin dish, and then you're gonna trim the edge off. And you just use like maybe a butter knife or like a spatula, some type of little blended object or whatever. It can be the handle of a spoon, and just gonna go around the bottom of it so you can get the excess off, like so. Actually, this is a spoon handle that I'm using. So you're gonna do this to each one because you don't want the excess to be up there and inside of the way. And then that's gonna go immediately into the oven, 350 for like 10 minutes. With the dough in the oven, we're gonna stir fry the vegetable mix first, and then we're gonna put in the oyster mushroom. So we're gonna get this all done. And it's very likely that it's all gonna be cooked because the entire thing is gonna get put inside of the oven. So I'm doing them separate so that the oyster mushrooms will retain the flavor separately from the other vegetables instead of just mixing them all together. You know, it just makes it, you know, it's like when if you had like some chicken or something or some fish, you want to actually taste the fish. So I want to actually taste the mushrooms separate from the other vegetables without having the flavors mixed together. And if you want, you can put the portobello mushrooms in with this. It's fine. And then plus this also helps to draw up some of the water so that when it does get put inside the oven, it don't make your dough mushy. Look at how cute the cups came out, and see how easily they're coming up off of the muffin dish. I make my own pizza sauce, but you know, use your favorite pizza sauce. It could be homemade, store-bought, you know, just make sure it has the ingredients, some real decent ingredients in it, you know what I'm saying? But So what I'm gonna do is just put a little piece of sauce all around the edges, and of course on the bottom. But I gotta get it on the edges of each of the cups. Okay, now those vegetables that were stir fried. Okay, so we put some of those vegetables right down inside of each of the cups as well. All right, and here's what it looks like a little bit inside of the cup. So I make my own cheeses. So I'm grating a little bit of my mozzarella. It's called cocorella. That's what I'm grating over this. So put as much of your favorite cheeses right over it. Mozzarella is like the better one to use, the better option, I would say. I'm actually all done here. What you think?